Hey everyone, Austin here with Paragon City Games for another walkthrough Wednesday for you. So this week we're going to be talking about Munchkin. This is a dungeon crawling game in which you collect items, get a class and a race, and fight monsters in order to take over their treasures. Now as you play this game you're going to be leveling up, and the first player to level 10 wins. So Munchkin is a very easy game to understand and a pretty easy game to play. You're going to have your fighter who has a class and a race, and you'll be able to equip them with different items that will boost their power up so that way you can fight the monsters. So when you start the game, everybody's going to draw 4 cards from the door deck and 4 cards from the treasure deck, and from those you're going to be able to create your fighters, hopefully. If you don't draw a race and a class card, unfortunately you're just classless and you don't have any special bonuses on top of that. For the first player you're going to roll a dice, and whoever rolls the highest is going to go first. Now, the way a turn works very simply is that you're going to kick open the door, which means that you're going to flip over the top card of the door pile. Now, if it's a monster, you're going to have to fight that monster. If there's not a monster, you're going to put that card into your hand and you're going to draw one more card from the door pile, or you can play a monster from your hand instead and fight that monster to gain levels. Now, when that's all done, you're going to go to the third phase, which is where if you have more than 5 cards in your hand, you're going to give cards to the person or the people with the least amount of cards in their hand that isn't more than 5. If you have more than 5 and everyone else has 5, you're just going to discard them. So that's the simple way to describe how the turn works. Now, really how the turn works is you flip over the top card of the kick the door deck, and you have to fight that monster. If your level and your items don't equal or aren't more than what the monster's level is, you're going to lose. Now, if you have cards in your hand that say, oh, you can use this for this turn to give +5 to your fighter, you can use that, and that will buff up your fighter so that way you have more, or you're stronger than the monster that you're trying to kill. Now, having said that, while you can buff yourself up, other people can also buff the monster up. So let's say, for example, that I flip over the top card of the door deck. This is a level 4 undead horse. I'm a level 2 fighter. I cannot kill this because this is a level 4 and I only have 2 strength. So if I were to play a card from my hand that gives me +3 strength, that would mean that I would have 5 and this would have 4, which means that I would kill this. Now, let's say that I have somebody else who's like, you know what, I don't actually want you to kill that. I'm going to give this +3. So now I'm 5 and this is 7 and I'm about to lose again. Now from here, I can solicit help from other players. I can say, hey, if you can buff me up, I'll give you one of the treasures I get from this, or I'll give you something from my hand, or whatever. As long as it is involved in the game, you can barter with it. Now let's say nobody helps me and I end up losing. I can choose to run away, which means that I'll take the dice and I will roll it. If it's a 5 or a 6, I run away. If not, then the bad stuff happens to me. So I rolled a 4, which means that the bad stuff is going to happen to me. The bad stuff is at the bottom of the card. This one says, kicks, bites, and smells awful, I lose 2 levels. So if I'm level 2, I go back down to level 1. If I'm level 8, I go to level 6. It's pretty easy, simple math. Now if I win, I get a level, I move up a level, and then I also get the bonuses at the bottom. So if I was level 2 and I somehow beat this, I'd be level 3. And this down here says 2 treasures, which means that I'm going to draw 2 cards from the top of the treasure deck. And I can play these, I can hold on to them. It's up to me with what I want to do with these. I got 2 equipments, so I can put these onto my fighter as long as it says that I can. So on top of that, if somebody were to help me and we were able to defeat this, I would have to share part of my loot with that person. Now, let's say I kick open the door and there's no monster. So this says wizard. This is a class card. What that means is that I would put this in my hand and I have one of 2 options. I can either play a monster from my hand and fight that to go up levels and get treasures, or I can draw another card from the door deck, which just so happened to be a monster. So I'm going to put this in my hand. Maybe another turn when I flip over not a monster, I can play this, defeat it, go up levels, get some treasures. Now let's go over kind of what some of these cards are. So the door deck will allow you to get your class and your race. So for example, down here, I've got a race card, which is an elf, which gives me +1 to run away, which means that I can roll a 4, 5, or 6 and run away. And my class would be a thief, which means that I have a backstabbing capability and a theft capability. So I can basically steal from other people. This is my class and my race. Sometimes you won't have a class, sometimes you won't have a race. Sometimes it'll be a while before you draw either. But if you can only have one class and one race unless specifically told otherwise by a card. There are curse cards, which you can play at any time. And if you flip over a curse card from the door deck, that automatically attaches itself to you. So for example, this curse card says lose a level. So if I were to flip this over, I would automatically lose a level. But if it's in my hand, I could play it on someone else at any time to have them lose a level. Whether that's during combat, whether it's on my turn, it's on their turn, doesn't matter. I can play this whenever I want in order to curse them. This is another curse card that says I lose 2 cards. I have to give one to the player on my right and one to the player on the left. And then these other ones are also monster cards. So now we'll go over the treasure cards. The treasure cards you can flip over are always going to be a positive thing. So this one, for example, says instant wall allows an automatic escape for 1 or 2 players from any fight, but I can only use it once. So as soon as I use it, I'm going to put it in the discard pile and it's done. Here's another one, 1,000 gold pieces automatically go up a level. So I would play that on myself. Here's another one. You can whine at the GM. This goes up a level unless you are the highest level player or tied for the highest. But that's also another go up level. Here's an equipment. It says boots of running really fast. It gives you +2 to run away. This is foot gear. You'll put it on your monster, and then when you try to run away, you'll add 2 to the roll. So it's essentially a 3, 4, 5, or 6, and you can escape. Those will go on your feet. Here's a headgear. +1 bonus, Helm of Courage. So that will give you +1. So if I'm a level 2, I have 3 strength. If I'm a level 5, I have 6 strength. Here's a hireling. These ones are really important, really important because they allow you to carry more equipment than you normally could. And this one allows you to steal a level. So as you go throughout the game, you're essentially building a character, crawling through a dungeon, fighting monsters, stealing their treasure, and leveling up. Now, the way you win this game is the first person to level 10 wins. If you're looking for a really simple, easy game with a lot of interaction and a lot of shenanigans, Munchkin is definitely the game for you. This is the deluxe version, which will come with a game or a board that will allow you to track everyone's levels, so that way you don't have to use a dice or a calculator or something like that. But it'll give you a board and it'll give you some extra cards in it as well. We also have some of these standalone games that have different themes. So this is a Marvel one. Everything on here is going to be based around Marvel. So there will be there'll be aspects to the game that will be specific to Marvel, such as collecting stones and having rings. You'll also have your own little board that will be your character, that will give you bonuses, static bonuses that won't change throughout the game, and that will allow you to track your levels on the board as well. And then the same with this critical role version. This will also have specific characters that will give you specific bonuses that will be specific to the different mechanics within this game as well. So every different version that you have will have something unique to it, but you'll still play it the same way as you would Munchkin. You'll still be having a fighter who will start at level 1. You'll be collecting levels as you fight different monsters. And then as you fight those monsters, you'll get treasures, you'll beef your guy up, and then first person level 10 wins. The game isn't super complicated until you start messing around with the different cards and screwing over other people by buffing up monsters. We recommend people who are maybe 10 or 12 years old, or 10 or 12 years and older, to play this game. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at 801 Paragon or to message us on Facebook, and we will see you next week.